like I was telling them, oh, he's here now. Miguel is here now because we didn't start because Miguel was here, but he's here now. So we're gonna have from chapter 6 to chapter 10 will be the final exam. And I will give an assignment for this week, which will be due on Friday. So I'll try to get it to y'all by tonight or tomorrow, which will be due on Friday. And this chapter is quite short, so I have another handout that will also incorporate the assignment. So I will try to have it sent to you, the class, by tomorrow. So you'll probably get both the same time, the actual assignment and the handout that I need you to, that you will need for the final exam, and you will need it to complete your assignment. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we can wait another, because I know some persons are still in traffic, so we can wait another probably five minutes, see if anybody else will join.
Ms. Smith, Mr. Byron Ferguson said that he's going to be running a bit late for class.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
I'm just trying to find out if y'all can hear because I was asking a question. How do you think it will affect us if we got rid of checks? I was saying how would it affect us if we got rid of checks? Anyone?
I don't think it will be a great effect because we have many other methods of payment. You have online transfer now. So I guess the checks, yeah, like I say, it wouldn't be a great effect.
How do you think persons like who have businesses, who that's all they do, some of them pay their because a lot of persons still have not gotten to the point where they pay do online transfers or do send their payroll to the banks to add to customers to their employees account. I know that's the way to go now. A lot of banks, a lot of businesses now have a payroll system which they would send to the bank a listing of all their staff and check on the dollar amount and for each to be credited to their staff account at different banks. So um, I think like that it won't affect them, but then you still have persons who still want to pay their staff in check. So, and then you still have government who's still writing checks, so how, I know they're trying to get away from it, but still, even with national insurance, some person declined to have you to put money to their account and they said, I want a check done. So how is that, how are they going to get away from it? Because with the national insurance scheme, when we had this unemployment benefit, majority of persons you would see went to the sports center and they got paid in checks. They had to go there, collect their checks, go there to collect their checks. So because a lot of persons don't have bank account. What happens to persons who don't have bank account? Because a lot of persons don't because of KYC documents, which they don't, some of them don't have, which the bank is asking for. So if they do, it's expired. And, sometimes it takes a while to get stuff sorted out. But I think now with My Gateway, it's, a lot of people should be able to renew your driver's license, renew your passport. So they should be able to get it done. But we procrastinate to the end, and when time comes, then we realize that, oh, I didn't do this and I didn't do that. But My Gateway is a good way that the government implemented because you can do so much things on it. But I still feel that a lot of businesses will still want to use checks because some of them, that's how they pay their suppliers, and they prefer that because they keep better records. And because even with the banking system, digital banking, a lot of stuff can happen, and people just prefer a more paper trail, and so they prefer to still write the checks. So I think that's going to be a little challenge for some businesses. Yeah. Canada, like in the US, is a society reliant on credit and excellent credit reference. data on consumer and businesses. Canada also enjoyed the latest technology, mobile phone coverage, and broadband internet access. Bank regulation is strong without limiting the effects of banks to grow their markets. Canada population of almost 40 million is affluent and its economy will develop. However, Canada is also vast with considerable geographical challenges and largely conservative population located in small number of regions. The Canadian environment gives rise to the large proportions of electronic payments and a large proportion of credit card transactions. Credit cards are widely held and credit information on consumers at a higher level. Checks also retained a significant market share compared to 3.7 of non-cash transactions in the UK. Possibly due to the geographical challenge of the scope of e-banking, Singapore, by contrast, is geographically thin. The equational paradise have population 5.3 million. Bank regulations is very tight and consumer asset access to credit is limited. Singapore has highly advanced 3G and 4G phones network and broadbands. The reasonable affluent population is well educated and hardworking. Well, we know they always say Chinese, Singapore, they don't sleep, they work 24/7. So, and as you see, they have advanced 3G and 4G phone network and broadband. Checks are much in evidence in this conservation conservation conservative society, as are debit cards, credit cards, due to the restrictions on personal credit, are missing from figure 10.2. In both countries, cash is still a significant force. Charges in Singapore in times of low interest rate can expand cash transactions significantly as consumers consider cash to be free to use. Analysis of the World Bank data is summarized, which 62 shows that income level and economic development have significant influence on the payment system choice offered by banks. This, however, fails to explain the considerable importance of mobile phone payment in countries such as India, Kenya, Finland. Here, the key drivers are the availability of technology and the lack of traditional banking infrastructure, especially in poorly populated areas. And like they're saying to you, so these areas like Singapore, like Kenya, India, and Finland, the key drivers are the availability of technology. So they're saying that they don't have much technology, but I always thought India had, they tell you most persons coming from India, they are technical savvy. So I didn't know that. So they lack the traditional banking infrastructure in mostly in the poorly populated areas. And as we know, India has so many people. And as we know, there's a lot of poverty in India. So I could see what they're saying here. The qualities of retail payment system. Anybody had a chance to look up what are the qualities of the retail payment system, like TESO? What is that? What does that stand for? Miss Augustine, Natasha, can you read that section for me, please?
The quality of retail payment system.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Every retail payment system has three key parties: the customer, the bank. To be acceptable, a payment system must provide benefits to each of them. There are a number of ways in which we can review, classify, and analyze payment systems. This text uses the TESCO mnemonic.
Limit.
Mimic?
Mhm.
Okay. The TESCO NIMIC outlines 5 key features of payment systems, each of which need to be viewed from the 3 perspectives of bank, retailer, and customer. This method of analysis and categorization shows why customers prefer cash, but that this preference is not always shared by the other 2 parties. In brief, the TESCO mnemonic stands for time, preserving time as well as value date, expense, processing, and value data cost. S, security, C, convenience, including portability and acceptability, and O, other attributes such as goal having intrinsic value. Key domestic payment systems. This section describes the key domestic consumer payment systems offered by banks. Offered by banks provide volume and value data for UK payments estimated for 2013, together with average values per transaction. Clearly, cash and debit cards are used for relatively small values. We have already noted the demise of checks in the UK, but they do remain popular for relatively large transactions. Direct credits, largely salary payments, boost the average values of this mechanism, while CHAPS outstripes everything else in terms of values transmitted and the average value of transaction at over 12 million euros or pounds.
You have 12? 2
Two,
million
two, sorry,
pounds.
2 million pounds. Cash. For retail banks, cash is a necessity or is necessary,
It's necessary.
but costly payment mechanism to offer. With the notable exception of the Eurozone, cash is typically not acceptable outside a country's borders. In Chapter 4, we noted the acceptance of US dollar in the Ukraine when the domestic currency was devalued, but this was at a time of crisis. Security and handling costs are the biggest headaches for the retail banks, and yet consumers have a large level of demand for cash and do not expect to pay for the privilege of receiving their own cash from an ATM. Central banks in Australia and Singapore have already issued plastic banknotes to extend durability and lower long-term costs. The Bank of England is planning to do the same.
Okay, look at this. We talking about Ukraine and we talking about Australia.
What
What's
happening
going
now?
on in there? What's happening there now?
Deja vu.
Mm.
We're talking about that, but what's going on there now? You know, like I hear them
Grayson.
saying, right? They're saying here that I heard on the news as well, on the talk show, they were talking about how the little percentage of Australia accounts or banks or whatever is here is so small. So even if we're saying we're having a sanction against Australia, it is so small. I just think even with the US, you know, the sanctions that they actually say they're putting on Australia, I just think they always was there. Certain things were still always there. So how much effect is that gonna have on Australia? How much? You know, but it's just so sad that they had to go to war, you know, and it don't seem as if they come into any peace talk where they coming in, you know, to cease this war. So, but it's just so funny that we're talking about them in this chapter. And okay, now we're talking about checks. A check is defined as an instrument in writing to a bank ordering him to pay a third party. So we know, okay, say Muna has a checking account. She writes a check to say Natasha. At the end of the day, Mona has to have a checking account at that bank to be able to write a check to Natasha. And remember, in her having a checking account, when she writes a check, she has to ensure that the funds are there. If she's writing a check and the funds is there, what is she doing? If she's writing a check and she know no funds are there, what is she doing? What is that process called?
Fraud.
Pardon me? Yeah, but they have another name. So if I'm right, if Mona writes a check to Natasha and she knows she doesn't have a check, any
Is that
cash on her account,
kiting?
yes, ma'am, it's kiting. So Mona is kiting because she is writing a check knowing that and praying that Natasha don't go to that bank before she put that money there. So she's kiting. I know of a situation where when I worked at another bank, I was in charge of audit. So that fell under my department. So I noticed that from review of the daily transactions, because I get a chance to review the clerk's work, and looking at the daily transactions, there was one particular person who was a staff member of mine in audit. And I realized because she was in audit, there were certain things she felt I wouldn't have been privy to, but I was a kind of a supervisor who just didn't know my job. I knew everybody who worked under me, I knew their job. So if somebody decided not coming to work, I just put my work aside and I did their work. And so I realized one day she was not there and a lot of stuff was hitting NSF. NSF means non-sufficient funds, persons who have checking accounts and they don't have sufficient funds, and when the check gets in, it's either left to the bank to pay or return. And as we know, if a check is returned, you have to pay a charge for a check being returned. When a check comes into the bank now, because of the 10% of that, it went down. It's now 27.50, I believe. But I realized I looked at the NSF report, and when I looked at the NSF report, I'm like, I went through the binder and I looked through to see. After I saw her on there, I went through the binder to see how often she was there. And she was there so often, but then I reviewed her account and then I realized she was kiting with somebody from another bank. So what they would do, she would give the person a check. The check person would deposit the check in her account, and then the person would give her a check. And so they was just kiting to I give you a check because another check coming for you, so I need you to fill that check. They were just kiting and kiting and kiting. The other young lady, her bank didn't do anything. Our bank did. We went through, I had to go through and saw all the checks that were going through and everything was being returned. And so at the end of the day, the bank let her go because that was one of the things that said even if you have NSF check, you have to be able to pay that check that day. And so she was always sitting the NSF. And if you're hitting the NSF report every day, something is wrong. And she worked in audit with me, a good worker, but just made wrong choices and bad choices. And I said, and I can say to any young person or anyone, you work at a bank. If you're in need of a loan, like I said to her, all you have to do is come to me. You're a good worker. I go to my boss. I said, she need a loan. She's a good worker. Give her the loan. And as long as your supervisor recommending it, the manager will say, okay, great, we'll do it. So you work somewhere. It's no, and that's the reason why I don't understand why people commit fraud, because you work at a bank. You need money. Yes, a lot of times they say when you work at a bank, it's hard to get a loan there. But if you just need a little loan, like a $5,000 loan, why is it not you just go and apply for the loan? It's better for them to say no to you than for you to go and actually take money from another customer's account or do kiting, and which at the end of the day is fraud at the end of the day, instead of just asking for a loan. And so, like I said, with checks, people do a whole lot of things with it. And then you have people who find other people checkbook. There was a time too, you had persons who, like I say, like they destroy. All banks and businesses have, destruction dates. So a lot of stuff goes to archives, and after a certain number of years, they destroy these items. So the items are taken to the dump and burnt and make sure that everything is burnt. I guess some things fall through the crack because we had where some checks from one bank, man, somebody got a hold of them. They were just checks that the bank didn't use anymore. Certain customers, you know, like they have just a lot of blank checkbooks for customers, first time customers opening accounts. So, you know, instead of them having to wait till executive printers print the checks, they would have like two books to say, okay, these two books will hold you until your checks get printed. So they discarded all of them and they stopped that practice. And but persons got a hold of them and used those blank checks as if it was their checks, and they just wrote their names. And some people put fraud um, check card, because you know, I don't know, any of you know a check card, what check card represent and what it's all about? Because we have a company named Check Card. Do y'all know about it? It's been around from, because I had my check card before some of y'all was even born. I had my check card from 1983. So check card has been around, and you'd find that a lot of times when people write checks, because they have a check card, you'd see them have the check card number on their check, and then you go to some businesses and you see the businesses will say check is only accepted with a check, personal checks only accepted with a check card. Do any of you know what a check card, it what it does when you have a check, what benefits is for a check holder, a person who have a
I've
checking
seen it
account?
before, but I've
Mhm.
seen it before, but I don't know what it's for.
Okay, a check card is check card saying that if this person writes a check to a company, I will be responsible for ensuring if that check bounce, I will be responsible for ensuring that that check is paid to you. And then check card runs behind that person to get their money. But a lot of places would say if you have a check
Oh.
card, because check card is like a guarantee card. So it guarantees that. Mhm.
I think it has a number in the back of it to call or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
But
it
that
has
was
all of that.
for.
But yeah, no, like a lot of times businesses sometimes, even though you have a check card, they still call check card, because remember too, now check card have a lot of people on their listing to do not accept checks from, because a lot of persons and you know, a lot of places don't have the updated listing. So sometimes if they feel iffy about it, then they call, you know. But check card it's like a guarantee card. Like if you sign a loan guaranteeing that, okay, if this person defaults, I will take care, I will make the payment. So check card is like, if this person check bounce, I will ensure that you're paid, and they will go behind the card holder, because the card
Okay.
is renewed annually. Yeah. So they'll go behind the card holder. Checks were a popular method of payment in the 19th and the 20th century, initially locally, but then nationally. Once transport network offered secured and swift transmission. In the UK, check growth can be seen following the expansion of the railroad in the 19th century. In the 20th century, road network allowed exchange, clearing of checks via central location, initially London overnight. So checks has been around from that time, and you know, like a lot of people, like they say, clearing, and as today we still have the same system with clearing. But like I say, unlike before, here and someplace somewhere around the world, checks, you didn't have to worry, and that's why people used to kite, because you didn't have to worry to say, oh, I gave Andrea this check. Oh boy, um, she can deposit this check today. Because before we had BACH or ACH, check took 2 and 3 days to clear. So a lot of times when you made a deposit to the bank with a check, and they still put checks on hold now, but before the check used to actually be on hold for a while. But now, because ACH um, checks clear the same day. So you can't have that thing to say, oh, I got some little grace period, so I can slip this check to Andrea, and I ain't gotta worry. She can deposit this check and it ain't gonna reach my account till 2 days. No, it's not that way anymore, because before they used to have to go to the central bank to to exchange checks, like doing clearing, exchanging checks. So they had to do that, but that's all done away with. So see, because as you see, the role with the in the 20th century, road network allowed exchange, clearing of checks via a central location. So most persons before in the Bahamas, they used to go to the central bank. All the messengers meet there, and everybody, they did their clearing there. So that's what used to happen. So just doing it there, and then it have to go on to your bank, and then the next person bank. So it took some time before it actually got to where it needed to go. So people had some time to say, okay, you know what? I have a couple days, so I should get $500 to meet that check before to put that money there before the check reached the bank. And so, but gone are the days, that's no longer gone. So a lot of people did that. And like I say, up to today, you still have a lot of people owing the banks or owing court, because like say you go to a business place, say like if you go to a premium importers, like you'll see they have all the people checks, all the checks that was returned to them. They had all the checks pasted on the wall, pasted on the wall. So you know, because a lot of contractors, you know, write checks. So when you go there, you be like, oh, look at this person. They just put the people check, paste them right up on the wall, so you know who had a return check. And you know, businesses now, like they tell you, even though people don't write as much check card is still in business. So a lot of people still have a check card. So when you go to a business, they totally tell you we don't accept personal checks unless you have a check card. So now that's why digital banking and cards, credit cards, debit cards, they are actually a lot. You'll see people using a lot of plastic. That's what they do now. As the cash, checks give rise to cost and security consideration for retail banks. Physical transmission of a check has been replaced by transmission of a check image, but the risk of fraud or missing signature, incomplete or uncleared written instructions, or post-dating of checks remains. Because like, you know, sometimes people will say, okay, I have a loan payment, so what I'm going to do, instead of me having to always go to the bank, I'm just going to give them 12 post-dated checks for my mortgage payment for the rest of the year. People do that. I do that. And so you'd give post-dated checks for the rest of the year. But like it says here, and sometimes you have, even now, even though we have ACH, you still find that a lot of times, because CSRs or back office staff not paying close attention, or persons who, when they get the checks, you know, tellers, CSRs do their batch of checks and then it's passed on. If the back office does not do proper checks, proper vetting of these checks, it can slip through the cracks and it gets to the clearing, and it can hit the customer account, and the check is actually post-dated for another month. And if the person who the account belongs to does not notice that the check hit their account, they have so much money that they ain't missing that little $300, that check goes through, and the check was not really, was dated for a prior month, you know, not say in April, but the check went through in March, because back office, nor did the CSR pick up, nor when it hit the bank, clearing from the bank where the check is written on, they don't pick it up. So it just hits the customer account. And if the customer don't pick it up, you know, like the customer have 45 days to review their statement and say, why is this? Why is that? Even with your checking account, even with your credit card statement, with your debit card, it's like you have to be, your savings account, you have to be responsible to know that you have to review your card, review your statement. And if you don't do it, at the end of the day, if funds came off your account inadvertently and you did not pick it up, the bank does not, is not have to really be reliable to you, because guess what? You did not pick up. They give you in the fine print, it says 45 days. You have to review your statement and then come back if there's an error. But a lot of people don't do it. And at the end of the day, when they finally take the time, say, to go through the whole couple of months of their statement, and they realize that, oh, I got this check. I don't know who use this. Why is my account being debited for that? And when it could be debited in error, because that happens where a lot of times where person's account are debited in error, person's account are credited, and a lot of persons are not as honest. So they'd be like, oh, my daddy must have spent me this money and he promised to. So they don't come back and say that this posted to my account in error. And even with government salaries, sometimes posted to the wrong account because when they went to payroll, they get payroll the wrong number, so it went to someone else's account. And when payday, they be like, I didn't get paid, and that's where it comes to back office really double checking some stuff, because like even too with accounts that are closed and persons still saying, oh, I have an account there, but their account actually closed, it will actually hit the unposted account because it's searching for an account number, the system searching for an account number, and the account number does not exist because the account has been closed. Yeah, so it'll automatically hit unposted which is an exception report will generate to say this account is not valid. So here again, is back office also paying attention. Yeah. The process of check collection is part underpins the retention of bank branches. Most UK banks outsourced this processing function to regional center in the 1990s and then to private contractors as volume fell. In the US, checks clearing also declining and is undertaken either locally between banks or via the Federal Reserve, with paper checks being physically driven overflow or to Jory banks for payment. Um, Anybody knows about when they talk about check imaging? What's that all about?
Um, well, what I know about check imaging, I only know about the they scan check. That's all I know about. When the image is not received in proper to the scan, that's all I know. The check imaging. I could be wrong,
What used
but that's fine.
Okay, what used to happen with when they say check imaging? The checks every day, like you say, checks has to be scanned, and they used to keep them. So if somebody comes and say, oh, where, I think they still do. So if someone comes and say, where I miss it, this check went through my account, but I don't remember this, I need to see a copy of this check. So checks are scanned. And I know where I work, they had a system where you can just go in, call up the day, the transaction amount, and it'll pull up all the transactions with that amount. But it also, if you put in the account number, it'll show all the checks that would have hit that account with that account number. And all the person have to do is just put it in, and they call it imaging. I believe that's what it called. And the check comes up, and so they're able to retrieve it and able to say to the customer, is this your signature? Did you write this check? Because a lot of times, because checks they don't do statements anymore, where they used to send out your statement to you with your checks in it. That's obsolete. That don't happen no more. But before, you used to get your statement with all the checks you wrote. They don't do that anymore. So now they scan it, they image it. So if if a customer comes and say, well, I did not write this check, and they have the information, they just put in the date, they go there and they pull it up and able to retrieve it at a cost. That's an administration cost the customer needs to pay, because you're saying to us, you didn't write this check, we retrieve it, and is it your check? So that's why they still scan it. Tellers, CSR still scan checks. Checks are preferred by business users for reasons of convenience and because checks allow businesses to enjoy float whilst the check is being cleared and before it is applied to the bank account. A check also provides evidence of receipt and evidence of non-payment should it be returned unpaid. And we know checks could be returned for unpaid for several reasons. Can you Miss Natasha, can you tell me one or two of the reasons why checks are returned to sender?
It could be, you said return?
Yeah,
Um,
mhm. Return
NSF,
unpaid.
it might be the NSF, not sufficient funds. Maybe the check wasn't written out properly, missing a signature or something.
Agreed. Could be post dated. Could be words and figure differ
The
because it
date
could say
could be
accidentally,
stale. It could be
right?
stale dated.
Right. And when is the check stale dated?
The 6 months permit was
Yeah.
written.
Mhm. So it could be either of those. And so a lot of times that's why CSRs has to pay attention to when they're taking in a check. Back office staff have to pay attention to when they're actually reviewing it too, to be able to say, okay, this check is still dated. Okay. Can Miss Bain, can you read for me, please? Debit cards. I have to do something. I'll be back, but you could continue to read for me, please.
Debit cards? Okay, sure. Can somebody, I'm just getting home. Can somebody give me the page so I can read, please?
Well, my books, it just says page eight.
Number 8.
Page
Yeah.
8.
Yeah, chapter 7, page 8. No, chapter 8, page 8.
Okay.
But all this of 8.
Um,
Chapter 8, the fourth page in chapter 8. That's the best I could say.
Wait, I'm looking one.
You'll see the copy of a check first, Bank of Wiki.
Sorry.
The page would have the copy of a check, a picture of a check.
I'm looking through the book right now.
It'll probably be closer to the back.
Okay. Okay, debit card sound good. Debit cards were introduced in the 1980s and are fast becoming the payment mechanism of choice in face-to-face, phone, and internet-based transactions. Debit cards also function as cash cards in ATMs. Depending on the global card scheme adopted by the issuing bank, example MasterCard or Visa, they can also be used in transactions abroad. A word of caution here. However, as the author well knows, banks do like to advise when the cardholder is to use the card abroad. Sorry, banks do like to be advised when the cardholder is to use the card abroad. Transactions can be blocked if the bank computer system detect unusual behavior, larger than normal amount, different places, increased frequency of use. American Express pioneer expert systems to highlight unusual transaction as a method of combating fraud. As a method of payment, they act as a reusable check for any amount. Retailers are electronically linked to banks in order to obtain online authorization for higher level payments, to access details of the latest stolen cards, and to send transactions electronically for accounts to be updated. Thus, the debit can reach the customer's account instantaneously. Originally, debit cards operated on magnet strip technology and required verification of most transactions by customer signature. As the as with checks, fraud became relatively easy, and so banks had to devise new systems to prevent losses. Key part of typical debit cards are shown in figure 10.7. The security digits on the signature strip on the card are used in phone and internet transaction. The latter are also protected by separate security checks carried out by card issuers. Chip and pin technology appears to have halted the the steady rise in card fraud, but criminals still find ways to bypass the systems adopted, and so eternal vigilance is needed by banks. Leading up to the launch of the new technology, UK chip and PIN, banks began issuing new cards to all cardholders. From From the 14th of February 2006, it was expected that most transactions using debit cards and credit cards would have would be via chip and PIN. The difference between the technologies lies within the unique microchip embedded in the card. The chip encodes the customer's PIN and includes other identifying data that are difficult to replicate. Because of this, the customer must only use a PIN rather than a signature to verify transactions.
Thank you. Okay. Um, okay, we know now with debit cards, I don't know of all banks. I know that my bank, um, with my debit card, I have a debit card, I have a debit, I have a prepaid, and I have a credit card, a prepaid Visa and a credit card. So with the bank that I bank with, anytime I want to do a transaction, the new system now, the CCV, I have to actually, it's not like before. If you look on page 9, you would see it always had a PIN number, like a code in the back. It always asks you for your code. When you purchasing a transaction online or paying a bill, you always have to put in the code, and we know the code is always the same. But now with my bank, when you purchase an item or you're paying a bill, you have to you well I everybody gets the has the feature, have to load the app on their phone. So you, every time you pay a bill, that CV code changes in the box. It's never the same. So like they say, before people could, you try to replicate the debit cards, but now they can't do anything, because every time I make a payment, I have to go and get a new a CV code, which will change for every time. I could go and buy grocery. It may be 562. Then I want to pay a BPL bill, and it could be a different code. So every time you do a transaction, the code changes. Yeah. So it's not as easy now as it was before. And we know with debit cards, if you, as a, say, Miss Bain, you choose to share your PIN number with someone, and that person goes to the bank and go to the ATM machine and withdraw your funds, what could you do? You choose to share your PIN number with someone. Should you share your PIN number with someone?
No, you're not. You're not supposed to.
And then think, if they get a copy of the card, they have access to the card, they won't go and withdraw money off your account. Do you trust someone to that extent that you would share your PIN number and say, oh, go to the call and get that money for me? Maybe it may be a one-time thing and you was in a situation that you couldn't avoid, but giving somebody a PIN number, say it's a husband, say it's a sister, a brother, a mother, and that one time you gave it to them, they see, well, whoo, when they get the receipt back, whoa, I didn't know she had all the money. So what happens if you miss and lay the card around, and the person, like I said, don't, not everybody is that way, but there are some persons, be it sister, brother, mother, daddy, who are not trustworthy. So they would always tell you, when you sign those documents to get a debit card, it tells you right off the bat, or a credit card, that PIN number is your private number. That should always be in your possession. You're the only one who should know that number. And we have a lot of times, like when I worked in the bank, persons would come and say, oh, I didn't do this transaction. And so back office will go, and sometimes they say, oh, this got to be a duplicate transaction. Mind you, it isn't, but it's just that you didn't do the transaction. Someone else did, because you gave someone else the access to your card along with your PIN. So they did the transaction. And so what happened? You're saying to the bank. I didn't do this. So bank has to go to back office. Back office has a report that generates every day, shows all the transactions. So when they go through, it'll show if it's a duplicate. You're able to pick it because the coding number would be the same. So you know it's some duplication. But if the coding number is different, you took $100 and then when you look, there's another $100 coming off your account, but you're saying I only did a transaction for 100. And so it's imperative also to keep your receipt. A lot of times when we get the receipt after we've made a transaction, be it a deposit or withdrawal from our debit card from the ATM, we would just ball up our receipt and throw it away. So it's imperative that you always keep your receipt because, say, for instance, say you make a deposit and your deposit was $600, but you said six, and when they said they count the envelope, it was only five. And that's why when the ATM fast deposit, I don't know, some banks still have fast deposit where you can drop your checks in or drop your payment, cash payment, which has to always be open in dual custody. And that's the one thing, but security, anything that relates to cash should be open in dual custody. Like even talking about tellers and CSRs in the bank, when you go into the vault, treasury, their compartments, one person should never be able to go into treasury by themselves. It always should be in dual custody because if I go into treasury by myself, all this money, what can happen? It's the same thing with your debit card, because if you choose to give that number to someone else, then you're exposing yourself. And so that pin should always be your pin and should never be given to someone else. And so, like I say, now with the new system, and we know now the debit cards, all the cards now have a chip. And so now we don't have to swipe like how they used to have to swipe it. You just insert in most machines, most their little merchant machines now. You just insert your card. Some banks card you have to put in a pin. Some bank you don't have to do it. Yeah, so the chip plays a very important role. So it really alleviates a lot of fraud and persons, trying to redo cards. But we have a lot of persons who still try to do it. So that it is really good that the chip is there, the pin is there. But like I say, all these things could be in place. But if you as a customer do not secure your pins and your card, then you put yourself at risk for fraud. Because even too, you could go to say you go to a food store, a lot of times if you go into a Solomon's or Super Value, sometimes they say, oh, my machine isn't working. I have to go down there. I following you right down there to use my card. You ain't carrying my card, and I'm behind you. I right there looking at what you doing. But people do it. And it's easy for like I said before, it was easy for persons to actually use your card. And that's why I'm so happy that they now have MS MS alert, so if that you if you anywhere you are, you could say, but I'm here. Why is the transaction going to my account? I'm sitting here. I'm not at the boutique. I'm not at the hairdresser. So why is the transaction hitting my card saying, sending me a MS alert saying that I'm using my card? Yeah. So it has evolved. So it's not easy for criminals to actually really get away with fraud and be able to get away with doing payments on customers' account cards as they used to. So it has evolved. Anybody has anything to add from your reading and from your own experience with the debit card, with checks?
Well, good night.
Hmm.
Sorry for reaching late.
Hmm.
But I got a bit of the check thing. But
Hmm.
as a processing center, you are the tellers are there, like you are basically like the final count. So we
Hmm.
have to make sure, like you guys said, dates are correct, figures and
Hmm.
words match. There's a date. there is a signature, making sure that everything is on the check is correct. You don't accept checks that
Mhm.
has no pay. You don't accept
Mhm.
checks that are, just basically stale dated or post dated.
Yeah.
U.S. checks are posted to BSC account. Foreign exchange rate must be always calculated. We got to make sure that the check is being posted to the right customer account. Kind of make
Mhm.
sure the check scanning fraudulent. Make sure that
Yeah.
that check is particular for the right branch. And so yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of process to tell us how to do to make sure that it's also correct, being a back house operation. And my experience with Visa and debit credit cards, I
Mhm.
had a Visa back in the Bahamas. I never understood why BOB never do a debit card, which is strange to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
BOB only does a Visa. I didn't like the fact that I
Yeah.
had to pay $29.95 every year to renew it. It's
Yeah.
very upsetting to me. But I use first Caribbean and using a debit card is kind of more of a convenience to me. Because then
Mhm.
at BOB, I had to go, well, I still do the same thing, put money on the card, but I had to go stand on the line and deposit money on the card or on the
Yeah.
counter. But
Mhm.
uh, that's all I got.
Yeah. But anybody else? Because we covered a lot, so y'all must have some input regarding checks and debit cards.
So how does because I saw a check today that
Mhm.
for a Royal Bank, but it has
Mhm.
a Scotia Bank encoding. How does these people do it? I
What do
I
you
just
mean?
I just want because okay, so like today we had a customer check that says Royal Bank, but then
Mhm.
when you look at the encoding, I was told that Royal Bank is 003, Scotia 002. So
Mhm.
it was a RBC check, but had a Scotia encoded on the check,
Mhm.
them little numbers at the bottom. So
Right.
how could
Mhm.
people actually, do it?
People do,
That might be a fraudulent check.
and right, and that's why I say too. A lot of times banks do not equip their staff, especially frontline staff, to say, um, this is how you recognize a fraudulent check. Because, like I say, they even forge government checks. They lift signature of a check, a treasury check, and they lift it and put it on another check and say, oh, this is check from the treasury. Or they lift a signature of a customer who have a business and they put it on the check and they say, I'm seeing paper, look just like the check. And that's why they say there's different watermarks. When you hold up the check, you see a conch shell. And if you rub the conch shell, it's different stuff that tells us that's when the checking associate, the bank came together, the banking association, and they put those different marks on the back. They came together and put those different marking on the check so you'd know if a check is fraudulent. You look for the watermark, you look for the conch shell. There's stuff that CSRs and back office and persons dealing with customers should know. So you're able to determine whether a check is fraudulent or not. I don't know if all banks are supposed to have it because they're part of the banking association. They're all supposed to have it because it was something that came together. All of them had input to say, the seven banks especially. Yeah, they all came together to say this is what the features should be. And if these features are not present on the back of the check, then we know the check is fraudulent. And I don't think a lot of CSRs, persons working in the bank, knows those features because I don't think the bank impart that information as they should to the persons dealing with customers and dealing with checks and dealing with money on the whole. So, like I say, debit card is good to have, but it's also you protecting your debit card because, like I said, if you give your card, your pin to your significant other or your sister or your daughter or your son, and you give it to them for one purpose and that time to do it, and your card go missing and all these transactions happening on your account, what is the reason? Because you choose to give your card to someone, to your significant other, your children, and they choose to, well, mommy ain't gonna miss this, and they just go and say, I'll swipe for 50. Yeah, It happens, Just like I told you about the situation where persons realize that, whoa, I have $5 on my account, but you know what? I went to Royal Bank and I was able to draw how much money from that bank? Girl, you have that card? Girl, go to Royal or Scotia or anybody. You could even go to that bank. And guess what? Girl, you could get some money. So people were getting money because it was a glitch in the system. So you didn't have to have anything. You could have taken $1,000 off your account and get it because there was a glitch in the system. So it didn't recognize that you didn't have funds on your account. So I think the bank is still going after customers who haven't paid back the money. Yeah, but there was a lot of customers. It was a lot of and so I say technology is good, but technology also have its glitches, and technology also creates problems sometimes. Yeah, and like I say, if you choose to give your card to somebody and later the card go missing, you can't find the card, and you don't, because you can't find the card, you don't go to the bank to say, well, hey, my card is lost. I need to block the account, or I need to do this. And so who would have gone to the account using that card would never have access to it. So if you didn't do that, and like I say, persons is coming and say, I didn't make that transaction. You didn't make it, but you gave somebody else your card with your PIN. So they made it. It's like I told you all the story before about someone, their daughter did one transaction for $100, and then she said to me that, oh, I only did one transaction. So, me, I worked at a bank. So I'm looking on the back end. I'm like, but you did 3 transactions. So I went to the back office and I said, oh, you're some duplication of, because she said she only did one transaction. So they said, no problem. They pull out the exception report or the ATM report and they show me, they said, see here, she did, look at this number, 1, 2, 3 transactions. So to prove that she did those 3 transactions, I had to actually get the video to show her to the ATM getting 3 of them $100 bills. And it's so good, the technology, get the 3 of them $100 bill and poking one here, and then having one in her hand. So that's all she got. Yeah. So it's like I say, you have to be responsible. It's your legal right. It's your legal responsibility to protect your PIN, protect your card. Ms. Roll, anything to add on that regarding debit cards and checks?
No, nothing to add.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Strawn, can you credit card for me, please? Or explain it if you had the opportunity to read. We don't need to read. You can just break it down for me, and because I know you work at the credit union, right? Oh, I know. Mortgage corp. Who work at the credit union? Who work at the credit union? Anyone work at the credit union? I thought someone in the staff. Because with the credit union, they have cards. They would get cards from a Fidelity Bank, so they have their cards. Yeah. So Miss Strawn, can you talk about credit card or read it for me, please?
Credit cards were introduced in the USA in the 1940s and were issued for specific purposes: fuel purchase, airline tickets, etc. In the 1950s, the Charge Card Diners Club was unveiled. This granted no credit to the holder, but pioneered with American Express the technology and clearing arrangements between retailers, banks, and cardholders. The breakthrough for modern credit card came in 1958 with the launch of Bank America Card. Bank America Card, the first plastic card backed by a revolving credit facility. This card was franchised and copied around the world and became the foundation of the Visa system. The systems developed by the Bank of America. In 1972, the Access Credit Card was launched by the Joint Credit Card Company, JCCC, owned by Lloyds, Midland, and National Westminster Banks. Since then, Access Card have been offered by Royal Bank of Scotland and Bank of Ireland. Access was restrictive in its membership policy, being the sole UK representative of the MasterCard network based in the USA. The division between Barclays, part of Visa, and the other big three banks, part of MasterCard, has now ended. From a technical and security perspective, credit cards are the same as debit cards. The inclusion of a revolving credit facility distinguishes credit cards, and the business model for issuers shows how remunerative they can be. Credit card issuers derive their income from two sources: commission charged to retailers and others, such as hotels and insurance brokers who accept the card in payment of sales, up to 5% of revenue. And B, interest charged to cardholders who do not repay all their balance within a set number of days of the date shown on their monthly statement. Each merchant, the technical name for a retailer or outlet, and cardholder is given a limit. For instance, merchants have a limit of £50 per transaction beyond which they can not accept a card without authorization by the card issuer. This is normally done online, but they can be by phone call. Cardholders have higher limits, example, £7,500, which their total balance at any one time must not exceed.
Some people now, I know most of you have a credit card, right?
No,
I don't
ma'am.
have anymore.
Pardon me?
I used to have credit cards. I don't have any. I use my
Okay.
debit card.
As we know, with credit, well, credit card is better. You don't even have to have a credit card per se. You could have a prepaid Visa, which is the same thing as a debit card. But the difference between a prepaid Visa and a debit card, a prepaid Visa, you earn points. So you can use those same points to purchase a plane ticket, to shop at Amazon. And so me, I don't use my debit card. I use my prepaid Visa. I mean, when I want money, I would load the card, pay the $2, load the card, and I'm able to purchase anything. And at the end of every quarter or every quarter, I can look at my statement and I can buy so much things because I have so much points. So a lot of times people don't know, and with a debit card, you really exposed because with a debit card, you're responsible. If somebody is doing a fraudulent transaction on your debit card, you know the bank is going to tell you. You say, okay, I didn't do this transaction. You got to wait at least almost 6 months to get that money back. But unlike if you use a prepaid Visa or a credit card to do a transaction, Visa has that insurance. So Visa will automatically refund you your money and they will then do total investigation regarding the charge. I had a transaction on my debit card, two transactions from the UK, from Europe. And I'm like, but I sit into my desk. What is this bing, bing, bing going on? And it was over $600 hitting my debit card. And I was like, but I didn't do anything. It took them almost 4 months to give me back my money. So you could imagine having $4,000 coming off your debit card of your account, which you have there as a savings or your salary goes to, and you have to wait almost 4 months or 6 months before you get the money back. So that's why I say to anybody, a prepaid Visa is better. You may have to load, but I prefer a prepaid Visa because I'm getting benefits from it. I'm able to get points every 3 months, and I'm able to use those points and eventually buy a plane ticket, go shopping. And so people say the debit card, but you could get a prepaid Visa, which is not a credit card. It's your money. And so I advise people to get a prepaid Visa than using a debit card. Because it's the same thing, but it's just that you're protected by Visa when you have a prepaid Visa rather than you have a debit card, because a debit card is your cash. So Visa is not in, it's that prepaid Visa, the Visa is your cash too, but Visa have that insured. So
Sure.
anything happen, Visa will automatically refund you your money, and then they go after do investigation on the transaction that you said doesn't belong to you. So
I just
mhm.
I just surprised that someone got that kind of money up on their account because they said if they just charge my card, they could decline hard. They got to send. They could feel bad and send me somebody hard my card with the clock. So you know, I if
Yeah, but you gotta remember too, your salary might just go to that account. You might just get paid that day.
yeah, I know.
Right.
I'm trying to. My lord, that's my whole
That's the
paycheck. That's
joke.
stuff. You just call up a paycheck right there. That's the whole paycheck gone right there.
That's
Mm-hmm.
a joke. Some people have hundreds of thousands on their savings account attached with a debit card and they would not move it.
Yep, yep.
Right to Fidelity and they would
They just
not move
probably
that.
never.
Wow.
Yeah,
You'll call
because
them,
they don't want
service
that.
it.
Like I say, they. Mhm.
You try sell them a
Go
fixed
on, Mona.
deposit, but they say no, they ain't
Mhm.
interested. Leave their money right there.
What? And they don't know that same debit card when they look at that, all the money could be gone with
That'll be
one person
0.00.
frauding. Yeah,
Yeah.
one fraudulent transaction could take all their money, you know. And that's what people don't. And I, like I say, after that happened to me, nothing is be on my debit card. I just don't put no money on that account. Only thing my salary may pass through that account, but I do not let nothing land on that account. Because guess what? After I had that bad experience, if I want, I have money on another savings, and then I transfer it to my prepaid Visa if I need to do a purchase. But I don't let nothing stay on that. Since that happened to me, I don't. It only stay. It's still open because my salary goes there. Yeah. Other than that, it would I would have already closed it, and eventually I might and just ask them to transfer my salary to a different account. Yeah.
One of my
Well,
friends, they
CIBC
have a
also knocked
Scotia.
me down. CIBC has knocked me down as one customer they ain't got a ripple fraud because any and the only customer they got a ripple fraud. Because if any fraud happened, they got to arrest me because at the end of the day, I try to get somebody. But you know,
But ain't nobody trying to get no money from you because you ain't have none.
yeah, he not on the account. So first guy being like, well, you know, we got to rip a spick stock. First, I got nobody in the account in the first place. So you know, fraud come from him.
Ain't nobody trying to take nothing off your account.
No, he's trying to fraud us. That's what going on. He trying to fraud us.
One of my friends
Agreed.
had a Scotia account and he
Uh-huh.
had about $1,600 on it. And he's like, about 3 o'clock one morning, he got a
Mhm.
text, but he didn't see it till the next morning. Say, thank you for your purchase of $300,000. He was like,
What
I ain't getting
the
$300,000 on no account for them to be sending me no text or no purchase. And he went on his online banking for true. The transaction was there and he's trying to figure out, so where does money come from and who make the purchase because it ain't me. That was weird.
Whoa.
And I was like,
300,000?
you're lying.
Whoa.
Yes, 300 something thousand. It was a little over 300 something
Whoa.
thousand. Whatever purchase they made, 3 o'clock in the morning. He was like, boy, this can't be real because ain't no money on my account but $600. I say, you lucky that
Mhm.
$600 still there.
Right. Right. You know, because what would have happened
And he sent it to me for true. And
if
he
they
showed me the
actually get a
text.
transaction for 16?
Oh,
Wow.
he didn't know.
Mhm.
My mom had a different experience. My mom had whereby money was posted to her account. She
Mhm.
said she's at the branch withdrawing her salary, and she said she noticed this large sum of money on the account. She said she had to take an ATM card out and put it back in because she couldn't think that this in her account. She said something wrong. So I say, Bobby, come on. I say, Bobby, come on now. All this large money on your account, you know. But she said later that day it was gone. Then she said that later on that the teller was trying to sneak some money, so they was trying to sneak it on accounts that I don't know how they was trying to tell her trying to do it, but tell her trying to take money.
Oh yes, like you have to understand, um, in the bank or anywhere, because last year we had, and the year before with COVID, we had so much fraud going on. And the one thing I never understand about in the banking system, how is it? What due diligence is back office doing when people could I mean, these people is just be so smart because, like I say, I knew of situations like I told you before, people do a lot of fraud of dormant accounts. That's what they do. They used to, before, when I was just started out in banking at another bank, man, let me tell you, the majority of fraud or tellers getting let go was because they were really using the dormant accounts. Because before they didn't have them locked away and secured like how they have them now, and everything in dual custody. But before, man, the dormant cards was there. So people used to take the people dormant card home and practice their signature, then come back the next day and just go take off the people money. And they post it through their drawer, you know, or if they choose to, they be like, oh, this customer here, but I don't have this cash. Can you do this transaction? And so they go to another teller to do the transaction. Meantime, that's their signature. But as far as the customers, the teller is concerned, they seeing a customer, her wicked, so they feel it's that customer. And she's saying, oh yeah, I'm getting, and this person is I remember there's this guy, he was a senior teller. And it's because this guy was his friend, they were friends. The guy came to him and said, okay, this is a dormant account. I need your approval because you need override. So when you need an override, only a supervisor can do the override. And because this is his friend, he didn't pay no attention because he didn't think his friend could do foolishness like that and cause him lose his job. And he just signed it. And at the end of the day, when push come to shove, it was fraud and the guy got fired. And because he was a supervisor and he didn't do his due diligence, he got fired too. Because it was a dormant account and it was the guy just practiced the signature, the card was missing, and he just took the man money. And at the end of the day, people fail to realize at the end of the day, there are spot checks and different checks in place that back office do, that auditors do. And so you pick things like that up, and at the end of the day, the truth comes out. But a lot of people use dormant accounts to do fraud, the tellers in the bank. That's what they did. And so you have to remember, they so privy to so much different information, and they know the system, so they know the different glitches and they know what to do to get over. And so because they know that, oh, my supervisor, oh, she don't pay attention. I could easily go to her. I ain't got to worry about it. I could easily, she'll just sign without even reading. She just, oh, what you want me to sign? I know some people like that. They could sign their whole life away and they wouldn't even know it because they do not do checks. All they do is, oh, what is this? You getting a check for a customer? Oh, okay, let me see. Okay, this way I need to sign. Okay, this it. And they sign in. They know nothing. And then you get some people who don't really know the system. So they just, and if a staff know you in technology smart, what they can do, they can always come to you because they know you don't know what is happening. But recently in banks, even accountants, you find that like some companies, you see accountants being dragged before the court because of what? They know the system, so they're taking the people money, and the people think money being accounted for and been accounted for. 200, 300 and something $1,000. We had several cases where persons doing these fraud checks, like Ministry of Tourism, that couple, the son and the mummy, and another banker was dragged into all of that, and they went to court, and it was a big check from Ministry of Tourism. How is that possible? And so people find ways, people find glitches, and once, just like I always say, just how we are proficient in our jobs, people who do criminal activities, they're proficient in their jobs too. So they do it just as well as us. So you have to always do your due diligence when, like I say, if you're a frontline staff, you have to back office, wherever, you have to always do your due diligence. And sometimes I know, sometimes we're tired, but if you don't do your due diligence, at the end of the day, you pay for it. So, and always remember, there's no friend in business. So when it comes to money, there's no friend in business. There's no friend when it comes to money. So you always do your checks that this is the bank policy and procedure that say if a staff comes to you with a dormant account, you make sure that that dormant account is pulled. You get that dormant account pulled from, and it should be locked in a locked cabinet with joint custody. So no one person can go in that dormant drawer to pull a signature card out. Everything, or a dormant drawer to pull a file out. Everything is locked in joint custody. And that's why a lot of businesses lose, because they have so much single custody. Anytime it relates to customers and cash, and it should be dual custody. Okay, you can finish this section for me, please, Ms. Thorne.
Figure 10.8 illustrates the flow of data and funds in a credit or debit card transaction. It should be noted that the merchant acquirer may be the retailer's bank or may be an outside provider, another bank, since the type of service can be independent of the main banking relationship. With each statement, cardholders are given a wide range of repayment options, from repaying the whole balance to repaying only a minimum payment, equivalent in the UK to interest for the month plus sufficient capital to repay the balance within 3 years. It is entirely up to the cardholder how much they repay, provided that it is between the maximum and the minimum. This illustrates how flexible a method of payment and a repayment a credit card can be. Interest is charged monthly on the outstanding balance. Should the amount not be repaid in full, it is calculated from the date of each transaction. For the vigilant consumer, credit cards are convenient and cheap. However, the ease by which credit can be granted, together with the temptation of 0% balance transfer offers by the issuers, help to fuel the fragility of the US and UK economies, in particular as the credit crunch of 2007 took hold. The credit crunch has severely reduced the amount of credit card usage and holding of multiple cards as consumers seek to repay debts. Large numbers of consumers, however, have had difficulty in repaying debts so freely acquired, and the numbers of insolvencies and repayment programs have escalated.
Okay, like they say, a lot of times, like I know Mona talked about it last class. A lot of times, persons feel like, okay, I get this credit card. They give me $1,000 limit, so I put $50 there. So they still expect that every month, like Mona said, or every time the bank can give them an extra $1,000. They pay one little $50. And when you pay $50, what is $50 going to do? If they give you a credit card limit of 1,000, you spend that 1,000. You won't pay that. And the one thing finance charges be hefty, because the interest rate on the card is already high. So finance charge is going to be there, and sometimes that little $50 ain't enough to pay that finance charge. So you ain't paying nothing. So the bank is just getting interest off you, getting finance charge of you, and getting service fee charge of you, and you're not paying anything. And so a lot of people, they still don't understand it, because banks, they'll say, okay, your loan is pre-approved, and your loan is approved, and we pre-approve you for $1,000 credit card. Most persons don't even understand. A lot of government people don't understand the credit card, how it works. So they get the card, one shot, they go and take $1,000 off the ATM, and then they decided that, oh, I have this credit card. Oh, let me go buy Super Value and see if I can get some grocery. And have all the people grocery on the counter, and what happened? Miss, your card declined. How my card could decline and they give me $1,000? Miss, didn't you go to the bank ATM and draw that $1,000 off? And so, like that, people do. And we know the banks could make you really embarrassed, because sometimes the system is down. Sometimes you go one little $10, go to Wendy's, say you're going to get a little $10 breakfast. The woman could come back to you, Miss, your card declined. Everybody looking at you. My God, look at her. She all dressed up, and look, a card. She can't pay $10. So we know that. I don't know if it happened to any of you who have or had credit card. Has that happened to any of you?
That happened to me. I go on and I think it was to Wendy's or something, and the woman say, my thing was got to 7 something. I stand up in my uniform, nice and good. Your card declined. I say, my card? No, miss. That can't be. I said, yes, miss, your card declined.
And
the next
everybody
one
looking
on
at
the
you.
next side say, no, something wrong with the machine. I say, oh, get it right.
Thank
No.
you. Because you know, and they're still so proud.
To say that.
Proud.
No, miss. I say, no, my card can't decline. She say, something wrong with the machine. I say, well, they all say that. Now, here's my money. So you're
But I
going to
say
pay.
a lot of them is feel so proud to look at you and say, oh, your card declined. And they saying it hard enough to make sure everybody
hear
there
you.
hear that your card declined. And
So
like
well,
you
you know,
say,
money is on that.
you know that look up, dressed right up and coming in here, but she want $10 breakfast and no, or $7. Look at her. Lord, $7 coming in on the card.
But I had money,
But
but
I
I had this money to do something else. So now I didn't want to turn around and say, well, okay, and just go. I say, hold on, let me put out my money. I say, and I just pay for my stuff.
Yeah, but like I say,
I feel attacked. I ain't gonna lie. I feel attacked.
what happened?
I don't know when I feel attacked.
Yeah, but seriously, that happens because sometimes the bank system is down. So sometimes it's an error with the system, the bank your bank that you deal with. So there's an issue. So nothing goes through, or sometimes there's a whole issue with the internet, or something wrong with their machine, and it's just internet connection, or just something wrong with their machine. So, and like I say, they be proud enough to tell you, oh, you got declined, sweetie. And they be looking at you, they just want to smile. I'd be like, boy, let me tell you. And see, that's the one thing I do. Before I do anything, I go make sure check all my prepaid Visa, make sure check it. So I know I just transfer, I just load money on this card. Don't tell me I don't have no money. Because this ain't the bank card, this is my money, you know? But these are things you have to pay attention. And like I said, a lot of times I say to persons who able to credit $500 that month and able to pay that $500 before at the end of the month. So once you do that, you don't pay finance charge. The bank don't get anything from you. They get whatever little fees they may charge on your transaction. But once you pay your bill in full, you avoid paying that finance charge at the end of every month. And a lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people don't do it. So, you know, we say credit card, just swipe that card. Oh, what else? I know some people that say, girl, I put $600 on that. That was my payment. Oh, now, okay, y'all have to post that payment so I can go use that $600. That's what people do. You know, that's what people do. So credit card is a big temptation. Yeah. And like I say,
so all the Visa debit, the Visa card, the prepaid, the different ones have different benefits.
well, like I say, I only got the prepaid Visa because I didn't want to use the debit card anymore. After I had that experience with somebody taking my money, and I have to wait because they say that's my money like that, even though the prepaid Visa is my money also, but Visa is under Visa. So if anything happened fraudulent, Visa will give me back my money. Right. And they will do the investigation. I don't have to wait for 6 months because the debit card, they say I could be lying and I could have used the card. Talking about I used the card. So they have to do the investigation. But with Visa will pay you back, and then they will do the investigation on their end to determine whether it was a fraudulent transaction. Yeah.
So why be open give me this kind of option? I mean, I pay $35.95 a year. I can't even get I can't even get a red cent from them. I can't even get a 0.000.01 point from people bank in the Bahamas. So
why? Because their cards don't have that feature. If you look at a Fidelity, a Scotiabank, a First Caribbean, that's the feature they have. You get points. You earn points with every purchase. So I put everything on my prepaid Visa. I pay my light bill. I pay my water bill. I pay my mortgage now, seeing that there's accept cards. I pay my mortgage on my card. I pay my life insurance, my health insurance. everything I spend on that card to get all my points. So I don't pay nothing with no cash. I just put everything on my card and then I pay it with my card. So I pay my life insurance, my health insurance, my mortgage, my BPL, my water and switch, my cable. When I want to put minutes on my phone, I pay everything on that prepaid Visa. So at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, I get all my points, and I can use all them points to buy. I remember when they used to give you points on the debit card when my children was in school. I used to buy plane ticket to travel to them of my points because I used to use the card to pay their school fee. So I was able to travel, never had to pay for a ticket, just travel using my points and purchasing a ticket. So you have to go to the place with giving you worked at a bank where you could get points, Mr. Picksaw.
I know this give points. That was an option to me.
Yeah, yeah, Visa. You have those credit card that they get points. Scotia does it too, and they always advertising. And even like persons now, they advertise and say if you come and get a mortgage with them, you pay half commission, half commitment fees, half legal fees, half this, half this, and then they give you a card with 5,000 points. So yeah,
All I want,
mobile. Hmm.
all I want my life is salary like you want. That's all I want. All I want for life
What
is salary
happened?
like you want. All I want
Salary
for my
like
life is salary like you want.
what like mine?
A salary. I want big
Well,
salary like
what?
y'all want.
Or like you mean like damn it? I
Yeah.
retire. I teach and I used to do a contract job. So that's all I used to do. I don't work no more like that for nobody. I teach and I do a contract job. And like I tell you all, I retired from Fidelity from last year, March. And when you reach a certain age, national insurance is supposed to pay you, right? You do early retirement, which I did. And I've been retired almost next week will make me a year, and I haven't gotten a dollar from national insurance. Not a dollar.
Must take that long.
Please don't talk for them lousy
No,
people. They
national
emailed me.
insurance. Mhm.
They emailed me last week. They lost my claim. Emailed me last week. Say I must submit a letter stating why my new claim is late. I
It's
said I'm not
late.
submitting no
I
later
know.
letter because y'all lost it. Y'all need to find it. I called the manager for them. I'm not typing up no letter. And that's Fidelity money. I said Fidelity need that money.
Thank you. Because even after I left Fidelity, I was sick when COVID first started, 2020. That started from 19. 2020, January, I swear, February, I tell them I had COVID. That's before we know COVID was out there. Man, I was sick for must see 2 weeks. I fill out all my forms, send it into national insurance. Then they come back and they say, oh, the doctor didn't sign and date this. After a couple of months later, and then I get everything done, send it back to them. Then the woman could come and say, oh, Miss Smith, you have to do a letter to say why you submitting this claim late. I say, Miss, I had to do the letter, because see, that was Fidelity money and I'd already leave Fidelity. I gave Fidelity their money last year after I didn't leave them a whole year later, After I didn't leave
Wow.
Fidelity, I had to go run behind them people to get the Fidelity money because I ain't gave them no money. And a year later, and I had to write a letter to be able to get the money, a couple dollars. Yep.
Sorry,
So
I really gotta
national
give you my
insurance,
check.
that's how they is. Huh?
I really gotta give you my check. I really gotta give you my NIB check. Really?
Yeah, but let me tell
I
you something. Like national insurance, trust me, and that's why y'all still young. Whenever that day come that y'all decide that y'all go retire, take late retirement, early retirement, make sure all you periodically get a statement from national insurance to ensure that they, for all the jobs that you was on, all your contribution is paid up to date and they have it all recorded. National insurance didn't have almost 12 years of contribution missing for me. I told them they did nothing. And then they come, say they're giving me $3. I say, Miss, you giving me that money? And they say, yes. I said, miss, if you put that money on my account, that will fly right back to National. I had to apologize for how I spoke. I was like, my chairs I work, you giving me them. I said, wrong person you giving that to. I say, look at my statement. You're missing almost 12 years of my contribution. I started in Finco from 1984. I left Finco in 2001. And you all tell it, where's my contribution from 1984 to 1996, I think. I said, where's my contribution? So I had to go to Royal Bank and get them to do a letter to say that I used, and I had to go through all kind of things before they give me that letter to say I used to work for them. And so now I sent the letter in. That was like 2 weeks ago. I say I probably will call them in June. I haven't been checking for them no more. I say I'll call them in June because the only thing I can do is rouse somebody else again and threaten them how they get to work on my things. Because I say, I wrote them a letter. I say, you know what? I ain't dealing with y'all no more. I'm going straight to the minister for y'all. And that's how they start working on my stuff. And then when they work on it, they want to give me $3. I say, wrong girl. And so when the claim manager looked at it, he said, oh, this calculation is wrong. He said, you're the right person that they're dealing with. I say, wrong girl, not me. Y'all better have all my money. Don't give me no $2 all them years I work. So always do periodic check to make sure your contribution is in line with the years that you've worked. Because National Insurance done, they just don't care. It's just like National Insurance need a totally revamp. Most government ministries need a total revamp because people just don't care anymore. Yeah, mobile phone bank payment. Ms. Roberts, can you read that section for me, please?
Sure. Mobile phone payment. A relatively new but growing payment mechanism is via mobile phone. Systems exist to connect a card reader to a smartphone, but this is strictly an alternative way of accessing the debit and credit card system. Various business models exist with free card readers and transaction fees at around 2.75%, for example, Power, South Africa or UK, or Square US, or paid for card readers around £100, and lower transaction fees, for example, iZettle, Sweden, 1.5% for larger monthly turnover. For mobile phone payment systems such as Barclays PinGit in the UK and M-Pesa in Kenya use only mobile phone numbers. The system works by payers registering their mobile phone details with a bank with whom they have a contract for the service. They may also have their bank account with the same bank, although this is not a necessary requirement. The receiver of the funds is contacted by the bank and funds duly remitted. Automated payments. The three key automated payments in use are standing orders, bank, gyro, credit. Standing orders and direct debits together are called pre-authorized payments as they are set up by the customer in advance and normally for regular payments. The key difference between these two methods is that standing orders are originated by the customer's bank, sending funds to the account of a beneficiary. Direct debits, on the other hand, are originated by the beneficiary by making a claim on the bank account of a customer. The customer's bank pays the claim provided it has a clear authority mandate from the customers to do so.
Okay. When they say standing orders, who usually do we do standing orders for? What type, like a lot of times people come and say, I want to set up a standing order for this or set up a standing order for that. What do a lot of persons set up standing orders for?
Insurance payments.
Yes. Is there a charge that persons have to pay the bank for doing these monthly standing orders?
Oh,
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I
Even
believe
if
so.
you do a monthly transfer to another company, another, like people who pay school fees, they have a standing order, say, I have to pay the school every month, I have to pay them $500. So standing order. Before, I know it used to be $15 and $25. I don't know what it is now, just to have a standing order done. And a lot of people still usually do standing orders for insurance. And I think that was back in the days. I hope people still ain't doing that, because you could go online and make your insurance payment yourself. So, but a lot of people still do it. They do standing orders to the banks, from the banks, like a Royal, most banks who do standing orders, they say, okay, every month, make sure this come off. And then you have persons who do transfers from their accounts to pay their mortgage at another bank. So I know a charge every month. You have to pay 11.20 every month to have your mortgage payment debited from your account and go to another bank to pay your mortgage loan. So that also happens, and there's a charge. Like I say, bank makes their money from charging fees for services rendered. So that's our bank, and interest. That's how bank makes their money. Continue for me, Ms. Roberts.
With standing orders, the bank receiving the order has to take care to establish whether or not the amount to be paid changes from time to time, and whether there is a date after which payment cease. Standing orders can be altered only by the customer in writing. Examples of regular payments where standing orders can be used include annual subscriptions, life assurance premiums, monthly and quarterly rents, and mortgage repayments. Direct debits have several advantages over standing orders. If the debit is for a variable amount, and many are, the amount can be increased in line with rising costs. Safeguards are built into the system to prevent people initiating direct debits which are unauthorized or for excessive amounts. All originators must be approved by their bank and must give an indemnity to reimburse the customer and his or her bank for incorrect debits. Example, where a computer tape or disk is accidentally processed twice. A further safeguard is that every originator must give adequate notice to customers of a forthcoming change in the amount of direct debit. The disadvantages arise mostly when variable amount direct debits. Some customers do not check their statements regularly and so may be unaware of rising subscription rates. If they had to change a standing order, they would be alerted to increases and moreover might cancel their subscription. This disadvantage from the customer's standpoint is of course an advantage to the originating organization, often adding the amount to be paid via an internet or telephone connection with the bank.
Thanks, Ms. Roberts. Um, as we know, say sometimes like with subscription, you go online, you see, oh boy, I think I need to order this. Oh, I can just do this. They'll tell you could get a free month, and then they say we won't debit your say we won't debit your credit card, or we won't debit your account, because a lot of people use their debit card, and then you'll see this subscription coming off every month, and you cancel it with the person, with the company, but it's still coming off your account every month. Sometimes you have to get to the point where you have to close the account because you already say unsubscribe, I don't want it no more, write them all kind of emails, and the money's still coming off your account. With direct debit, like they say, sometimes you fancy where, say for instance, say Cavalier Construction, they sent a this to the bank to say, okay, this is my staff, these are their bank accounts, and what happened, IT missed and run the disk twice. So staff are paid twice. And yes, that happens where IT runs the disk, duplicates it. So when you go to your account, you say, oh boy, they give us an increase. Say, oh, they pay me twice. What happened? So mind you, you got some customers, some staff who say, oh, they see all the money, what they do? They take it off, because they say they know they get paid twice. They know it's an error, but what they do, they take it off. So what happens to them? At the end of the day, their account becomes overdrawn because the bank have to reverse that actual duplicate credit that was posted to their account. So when their salary come in again, what happens to them? They have no salary because the bank has to clear that overdrawn account status. So they have no money. And like I say, some customers do it. Even with banks, when the tape, the cassette, or the disc, the listing comes from the treasury. And if IT had some glitch and something went wrong and IT ran the disc twice, People know that they only get paid once, but what happens? What they do, they take out all the people money and say, oh, I get paid twice. They know that's a problem, but they still do it. So when the next month payday, they have no money because the bank will run behind you to clear it. But if you don't come in and clear it, what they do, they know your salary comes there. So when your salary comes in, your account just they clear the overdrawn status by just crediting your salary, and you have no salary for the month of April because you use your salary for March. For April, you use it in March because you know it was a duplicate payment, and it happens. Any IT errors happens, glitches, technology, things happen, things go wrong. Anything to add more, Miss Roll, related to direct debit and what we just talked about? Anything you want to add to that? Automated payments? Or anybody else? Anything you need to add?
Mom.
Okay. Automatic clearinghouse. We talked about it. We started to talk about BACH, the ACH last week. We started to talk about it. And like we said, the clearinghouse now, where checks automatically, transactions automatically go through, like say I want to transfer some money to Mona. Mona account is at Royal Bank. They have different times of the day that these batches are uploaded, and I think it's mostly 3 times a day, not sure, 11, 2, and another time. And so my transfer, my domestic transfer from my account to Mona account at RBC, say I did it first thing 6 o'clock in the morning. So if they're doing the first upload by 11 or 10, I have to have it there by 10. So if I'm doing it, I did it at 6. So Mona should get that money by 11 when they do the first upload of the transaction. Mona should be able to get her funds, her domestic transfer from my account to hers should hit her account by then. So the ACH started in January 22, 2010. The automatic clearinghouse is a system authorized by the U.S. government that involves financial environment, wherein a network of web-linked banks make electronic wire transfers possible. With the presence of the automated clearinghouse, it is easy for people to deposit cash and issue checks for businesses and personal consumption. Recently, and Brian Smith used to be the one who used to be in charge when ACH first came on to in stream. Brian Smith, he used to be in charge. I'm not sure who's there now. I know Maria Cooper used to be second in charge. I don't know if she take over or what, but Brian Smith was the one who was in charge. He was the business manager of ACH. Um, ACH was featured in the local news because of pending utilization of ACH within the Caribbean islands. Smith, in this interview, enumerated some of the major advantages that people of the island can get from automated clearinghouse in the islands, and in turn, both personal and business financial transactions. And so ACH, like I said before when they just used to do the clearing of checks and stuff like that, we didn't have the feature where we could go and just go to our online banking and just do a domestic transfer. I think some banks you could do international transfer. I'm not sure about my bank. Mona, is international transfer available yet at Fidelity?
Not online.
Right, not yet.
No,
But some
mom.
people can do it. Other places, okay. But some people can do international transfers too. Yeah. So the advantage of using the automated clearinghouse for the Bahamas, the first advantage of utilizing the ACH is the quickening of all banks transactions to be mere minutes. This is because of the automated and electronic nature of the said transaction. With the use of internet secured cyber banking protocols, you will be able to transfer money from one account to the other without the hassle of much paperwork. So I can sit down and just say, okay, now I want to do this at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can do it. Just know that my money wouldn't hit that person account or hit my other account at another bank until the first batch is uploaded. So once it's uploaded, it automatically hits that bank, and that bank has to ensure that they upload it to the customer account right away also, because some banks don't. And like I could safely say, for my salary, I get paid on the 28th. And I'd be like, okay, so why I'm getting my salary until the first? It's because the connection between one bank and Fidelity. Yeah. Secondly, the Bahamas ACH will ensure that your money is safe and secure through the aforementioned protocols that only BACH Bank Network knows about. These protocols are limited to those banks that have direct linkage to the network for the intra-banking transaction. And so not all, I don't know if the credit union has this feature. Um, Miss Strawn or Miss Roberts, with Bahamas Mortgage Corporation, do y'all have anything online banking there where persons can transfer money to their account or their mortgage or direct deposit? Or y'all just do over the counter?
We have accounts that they can set up standing orders or go into banks to pay their mortgage.
Okay, but no online presence, y'all. They have to even do a
Um,
standing order.
mm-hmm. Nothing online. No.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Aside from this, you can now receive money from different bank account from your employer account if you need to even if you need to even oh, if you have an account with a different financial institution. This means that you do not need to have an account at your employer bank to be paid. As stated above, BACH would greatly reduce bank transaction hours and transfer duration. You would not have to wait for weeks for your deposit to reach the proper account. Because of the fast wire transfer, you will be able to send and receive cash within days of your withdrawals or deposit. BICH will also reduce the risk of danger when physically transporting a check from one bank to another. This will be much safer for the messenger and for the bank itself. The messenger will not have to worry about shady characters and having the cash or check stolen from him. Years ago, somebody made me laugh. They told me a story that before they used to have to carry cash from one branch to the next. It was like, if they were still doing that in these days and time, we would have so much people getting off over their head, so much robberies, so much murders. I know the guy said he had to carry must see 40, $50,000 from one branch to the next. So that's how they used to transport money. Instead of even an armored coming, the messenger used to transport the money from one branch to the next branch. Can you imagine, Mr. Pickstock, if they had you having to be the messenger to take money from one branch to the next? How would you feel? What would you do in these days and time?
Listen, I have been problems now transporting my physical cash I received today to Treasury blocked account because at the end of the day, Mr. Big Stuck don't like messing people money. It ain't all kind of stuff. What's the name? Mr. Big Stuck going to fooling with it. But I would feel threatened with my life because I know who watching me. I hear a lot of stories where people who like transport money for companies get knocked on the side of the
Yeah,
road and stuff and stolen and shot. It's very a very risky job. And
yeah, but back in
was
the
told
days, that's what they
before
did.
I was told before when computers got paid, they used to
Hmm.
have to take a list to the bank, and the salaries had to get taken off the account and brought to them. And I say, how y'all? I said, but how y'all be doing this? How y'all accountants be letting these people just go in there and just getting the
Yeah,
cash? I said, that's
yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah, agreed. That's why I remember too, you had a lot of contractors getting killed and robbed because okay, I work for you. I was one of your construction workers. Hey, boy, our boss is kept he's go to the bank this kind of time. So hey, all you have to do is come by the job. He can be paying us. And what happens then? So remember now, that's what they used to do back in the days. People would come, you come, the boss coming with your salary and all your envelopes, and he gain everybody the envelope. And that's what used to happen. And so now, on any given Friday, when you go into a commercial bank, um, a lot of times you see, and they're so crowded because what construction workers are coming to get paid. So the line
Mhm.
is rather
For
long.
sure,
So now they
right.
don't do that anymore. They do where they have direct deposit to staff account to their account, or they carrying their checks to be cashed at that branch for their salary. But before, that's how they did it. The contractor used to pay them on the job, and that's why we had a lot of deaths, a lot of robberies and stuff like that, because inside job. Just like you said, Mr. Pickstock, remember the case with the guy escorting the lady from McDonald's to the bank. It got shot. So yeah, because somebody always an inside jobs. A lot of times people know, oh, I could tell you, yeah, this happened this time. Go there. And even with us going to the ATM to get money, people could follow us and say, okay, where you coming out? Go back inside there. So like Pickstock say, I ain't got no money. So I know what you're getting off that account. So you could
Mas
put a
como na
whole make there.
ATM, you know, my face screw up, my face screw up, my face be screw up like I can get paid. So you wake up at the beach.
Yeah, so like I say, and so BICH is a really, and direct deposit is really been an advantage for bankers, for customers, and for financial institutions and other businesses. Yeah, because they can actually now do direct deposit to their staff account. As stated above, BICH will greatly reduce bank transaction hours and transfer duration. You would not have to wait for, okay, I read that part. BICH will also reduce the risk of danger, which physically transporting money, like I talked about that. And like I said before, yes, back in the days, I taken all kind of money to the bank as a messenger. I taken the money. I think that was so scary. There are just some of the these are just some of the major advantage of using BACH for all of your business transaction. The automated clearinghouse is a prime example of how far technology has come, can take us in terms of financial security and safety. In addition, ACH has become so widely utilized by banks all over the world that e-commerce have decided to tap into this as well. The National Automated Clearinghouse Association have decided to set up specific guidelines as to the proper way of conducting online transactions to protect the consumers as well as the merchant. NACHA. Anybody knows what NACHA is all about? NACHA is something that central bank has to do with central bank, and like you know too, you'll have like persons who want to send money to central bank. You have banks who have to pay stuff to central bank. Like I told you before, like sometimes when a bank don't send their reports in, they don't do what they have to do. Um, they have to pay fees, and instead of them, they central bank, they every bank they have an account with central bank, so things go through NACHA, which is a central bank to do. So they go through NACHA. People send money from from one place to the other through NACHA. So you'll see like, okay, I'm sending this through NACHA, like just like the ACH, but I want to send it through NACHA. And that's what a lot of people do, transfers through that. The Central Bank of the Bahamas, that was when Wendy Craig used to be the governor, also confirmed stories saying that by March, people will be able to pay all debit, credit, transaction for their businesses online and learn the proper way of doing it. And that's why I say central bank is the one who deal with this natural process. These guidelines aim to strengthen the security of each transaction through digital signature and in in pronounce that for me. Encryption programs that can help protect the identity of clients and aids the bank authenticated the client's identities before proceeding with transactions. Do y'all now, Miss Augustine, Natasha, which area you work at, Scotia?
I'm in collections.
Oh, in collections. So you don't really privy to all this, like even right, you work in collections, and so when persons pay cash or transactions done through the ATM or online, how do y'all go? Because I know y'all trying to go cashless where nobody paying cash into the branch. How do y'all deal with that when y'all doing collections?
If the person has a savings account,
Mm-hmm,
we would put the auto debit on it
mm-hmm,
for the payment. Or if not, you come, or if you don't have the savings account, you would have to
mm-hmm,
transfer from your bank or
mm-hmm.
go to one of the cash branches and make a deposit over the counter.
Okay, so not all branches cashless. Some branch still take cash
Some
over the
branches
counter.
still taking cash.
Okay, all right.
Only a few is I think about 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's 8 now, so maybe like 4 is cashless and 4 still accept cash.
So y'all only have 8 branches now?
Yeah, I think so.
All those
Main
branches
branch.
y'all have? The one on East Bay Street is still open?
Yes, ma'am.
That's still open. Jerome Avenue is now what?
Jerome Avenue is a loan center now.
So doesn't deal with cash at all, only the ATM.
Yes, only the ATM.
Okay, all right. ACH also plan to tap into internet paying services like PayPal to decrease the risk of bouncing checks, incidents, and payment that clients fail to receive. With ACH collaboration with these online financial institutions, bank transaction okay, would be much. The major financial institutions involved in BACH. So I tell you, not everybody. These are the banks that are involved in ACH or BACH. Here are some of the major financial institution linked to BACH. You can find all of these banks in the Caribbean islands and in Canada as well. Bank of the Bahamas, Commonwealth, Fidelity, Royal Bank, Scotiabank, First Caribbean. Central Bank regulates these network banks with ensuring smooth banking transaction within the network. With BACH within your reach, your financial stance will be better than before. So we know these are the different. A lot of times when you look in the papers and if there's a holiday, you see these banks listed in there as so they are all under the one umbrella. So BACH, so all of these are banking associations. So you'll see them saying, okay, the banks will be closed for Easter and these are the dates, and then they'll list all the banks. Or when there was election, they'd say these are the banks and these are the hours and stuff like that. So that's what you'll always see when it comes to BACH, and I'm talking about um, holidays or banks that are going to be open or during different events. Any questions, any concern about chapter 8? Should be straightforward. Anything y'all want to add to chapter 8, please? Um, this another night that I read. Please, please. Oh, our next chapter deals with loans. So Miss Roberts, Miss Strawn, Miss Roll, Miss Augustine, all of y'all. I expect y'all to be on point and I'm going to listen. I'm not, this is my last night for really reading. Anyway, how many persons actually did peruse the chapter and read chapter 8?
I did. I made a few notes.
Anyone else? Hello? Can I get a vowel? Okay. So like I said, what I'm going to do, I have a handout that I'm going to send you, and I need y'all. It's just in more detail talking about checking accounts, because like in the checking account, it is talking about the checks and the clearing cycle. Remember, this is back in the days when the checks clear, but I still want you to know what used to be clearing cycle when it comes to the check. Customer pay the check at a collecting bank. Amount of check is credited to the customer's account, may be delayed if the customer bank elsewhere. All checks collected in a day are sent to the bank clearing center. All clearing center checks are mechanically read and sorted. Electronic data from a magnetic ink code line on the checks are transmitted. The physical checks are transported to the exchange. That's when we talk about the central bank, when all them is to meet and exchange the checks. Customer account is debited. The checks are handed over to the paying bank. Net debit between the banks are settled, and that's how they settle. So if you owe me or I owe you, that's how the bank settle. And that's when they do this stuff. I think that's when it comes to it will go to the central bank. Everything goes to the, because with banks now, you cannot do a transfer just to say I want to send money. If you're doing a transfer at a certain amount, I'm not sure if it's $1 million or it's 500,000, but it cannot just be transferred from say a Fidelity to a Royal Bank. It has to go through now. It has to go through the central bank. It has to, because the central bank, like I said, everybody has all banks have an account with the central bank. So it has to go through the central bank process, which is not just so everything will go through the central bank. So I think only I think it's $1 million. After $1 million, it has to, you cannot do a transfer from or do a check from one bank to the next. It has to go through the central bank. I guess they keep some kind of record for this type of amount. Yeah. But like I say, I'm gonna try to scan it to y'all by tomorrow. Because like I say, this has a little bit more information. It talks about special presentation, but sometimes you'll have like, okay, a customer comes, because you've had so much issues with this customer and they have a check for like 60,000. Before you chance sending it to the clearing, you would send it on special settlement. And so the messenger would take it from a Fidelity to a Royal and present it to the bank, and it'll be on a deposit saying special settlement. So it doesn't go through the process where, oh, I have to deposit it. They go directly to the bank and do special settlement because, it's a certain amount. So the bank prefer to do a special settlement. And then it also talks about the traditional check clearing and check transaction. It talks about how the check is, we just talk about collected, and it's just a Venn diagram to show you how it's physically done. Then I have something else here talking about collecting bankers, and it just has the key parts of a check. So in my question two in an exam, I could ask you to identify the key parts of, I could put a blank check and I can say, label it for me, the key parts of a check. So this can also be a part of the exam. I could just either give you a check and say, what is this? Who is this? Or I can give you a check and say, label this check for me. The paying bank, the pay, the date, the pay dates, the amount, the signature, drawer signature, where it's crossed. And we know when a check is crossed, and mostly government crosses check. So when a check is crossed, we know we cannot cash it. The person has to deposit the check on their account. And that's what I say, when a check is crossed, it's usually crossed with two lines, and on a cross check, you have a general and a special cross check. So these are things you're gonna see that we didn't discuss tonight, because this is a different handout that I want you to look at. And because this handout also talks about not negotiable alteration, talks about if a check is altered, you know, if a check is altered, but any documents being altered, the customer should initial. And if you get a check that is altered and the customer has not initialed the check, you should not accept it. Because at the end of the day, if something is wrong, because say I put in $200, but then I try to change it to $3, and my word says 3, but when I wrote the figure, I wrote 2, and I'm trying to change the 2 to 3. If I'm successful in changing it, that it's legible, the customer should have an initial. If the customer doesn't initial it, you ask them to write a new check. You have to also make sure, ensure that the check is always signed, because you have some persons, when a check come in, they don't even pay attention to make sure the check is signed. So the check going through, and what is going to happen? Check's not signed. So is that a legal document? It isn't, because it's not signed. So stuff like that you're going to see, and then you're going to see where I talk about, it's going to talk about the protection for the collecting bank. So the bank has some protection, the payer has some protection. And so these are the things you're going to see on this, in this handout. Talks about the back of the check. Then it talks about why checks are returned, which we touch bases on. It talks about the risks that could happen around customer account being debited. And then, like I said, it talks about why a check can be unpaid, refer to drawer, represent the check, uncleared funds. And uncleared funds, we know, well, okay, this person have money, but guess what? The 2 or 3 days, the check, the funds is on hold for a couple days. So I cannot cash that check for you because the funds are on hold. So that's uncleared funds. And sometimes you'd have a reason that the customer don't have account, and then you'd have another reason that another signature is required. It's joint. Or you'd have where the drawer didn't put his signature there, or the check is out of date. It's stale dated. It's post dated, or the signature doesn't match, or words and figure doesn't match. Okay, so stuff like that. This is what you're gonna see in the handout that I'm gonna send to you. And then I have a credit card or a debit card, and I can do the same thing. I could have the feature of the card, and I can ask you to label it, or I can ask you to tell me, is this the user? Is this the microchip? Is this the card digital 16 numbers? Is this the card scheme, which is like whether it's a master or it's a Visa, so I can have stuff like that. I can have the security digits, who is the issuer, which will be right down to the bottom. And they'd say, when you get a card, please sign the card. So stuff like that, you're gonna see, which we talked about, but didn't go in depth with it. And then, like I say, you're gonna see the laws. So it'll tell you that a card holder, the party, a bank and a card holder contract covers issued of the card, limit of the credit availability, interest charge. So these are the parties, like a customer, and then these are the contract, with the contract covers. And like we know, a lot of us, we don't read the contract. So at the end of the day, when worse come to worse and we have to actually deal with a situation, we be like, oh, I didn't know that. But that's why there's a legal binding agreement that card holders sign, that check holders check, persons who have checking account, like we mentioned about, make sure you look at your statement, your 45 days. And like I say, these are the things. So you're going to see these stuff in the handouts that I'm going to give you. And like I say, the handout will also incorporate your assignment. So you'd have an assignment, which like I said, I'll try to get to you the latest tomorrow. But like I said, I didn't give you an assignment because I wanted to combine these this handout with chapter 8. So y'all will have a better understanding, and not only that, y'all will read, because most of these questions that I give you on the assignment, you will see them in the final exam. Okay, any questions, any concerns? Just remember, next class, I'm not reading. I'm just gonna pick on everybody, not to read, but to discuss. I'm gonna give everybody a little part to tell me what it is talking about in your own words. So I'm not reading. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to have all your names listed to what I want y'all to do next class. Okay. I'll have a great night.
Okay,
So Miss Roberts, don't forget to tell Mr. Good night, Mr. Ferguson and Mr. Marshall, because he's not here either. That I will send them a handout and they'll get the quiz. Okay. Alrighty.
Hello.
Good night. Alrighty.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I in class. When I in class,
No, I think they're gonna what? I think they're gonna